The SBF trial.
It may feel like there are a lot of moving pieces, but here are the 5 things you actually need to know. No crypto knowledge required. 1. The who. Let's untangle this web. At the center of it all is SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried. Grew up in Stanford, graduated from MIT, worked at Jane Street, one of those high-frequency trading firms, think Flash Boys, and at a nonprofit. Most famously, however, he's the founder and CEO of the now defunct crypto exchange, FTX. He founded it in 2019, and at his peak, he was estimated to be worth $26 billion. Let's start with situating where he sits in the crypto landscape. Competitors you've probably heard of are CZ and Brian Armstrong. CZ, whose name will come up again, founded Binance in 2017. At his peak, he was estimated to be worth $65 billion. Brian Armstrong founded Coinbase in 2012, almost a decade earlier. Brian Armstrong's $6 billion is a ton of money, but SBF amassed more than 4 times that in just 2 years, versus the 10 it took Brian Armstrong. In the SBF empire, there are 2 main companies, FTX, the crypto exchange, and Alameda Research, the crypto trading firm. The big difference is that FTX was an exchange for customers to make crypto trades. Alameda Research, however, made crypto trades to make itself money. Those on the executive team you'll hear about are, on the FTX side, Ryan Salame, the 30-year-old CEO of the Bahamas subsidiary. This is the guy who bought himself a private jet and became a Republican mega donor, donating at least $23 million to Republican campaigns before the November 22 election. Nishad Singh, the 27-year-old who led engineering at FTX. He was childhood friends with the Bankman-Frieds, both Sam and his younger brother Gabe. He wrote the code that allowed Alameda Research to take FTX's customers' money. Wang, the 29-year-old chief technology officer. He and Sam went to math camp together in high school and were roommates at MIT. He also worked on the code that allowed Alameda Research to take FTX's customers' money. And then there's Ellison, Sam's on-again, off-again 28-year-old girlfriend, whom he made CEO of Alameda Research in 2021, and whom he's hell-bent on publicly humiliating for having been in a relationship with him. Daughter of 2 MIT professors, graduated from Stanford, and, like him, worked at Jane Street, where they met. They've all pled guilty. What's missing? The CFOs. Neither financial services company had a CFO. 20-something, 30-something engineers, algorithmic trading geniuses are nothing new. But where were the staid CFOs SBF should have hired to help him run both companies? SBF's parents are Joe Bankman and Barbara Fried, both tenured Stanford law professors. Joe Bankman was a tax professor and a psychologist. He left teaching full-time, became a full-time advisor to FTX. Barbara Fried taught contracts and legal scholarship, but was most famous for her writing in legal ethics. She left teaching to become the co-founder of a super PAC, which directed democratic political giving, including SBF's astronomical $40 to $80 million before the November 22 elections. Gabe Bankman-Fried, SBF's younger brother, who was a Democratic Hill staffer and the founder of the lobbying group Guarding Against Pandemics. Recall, he was good childhood friends with Nishad Singh, FTX's director of engineering. Who's representing SBF? His lawyers are Mark Cohen and Chris Everdell, both former federal prosecutors. Before SBF, they famously defended Gisele Maxwell, convicted for trafficking girls for Jeffrey Epstein. Number 2, the what. Let's remember that when FTX imploded, FTX and the world learned that FTX had stolen at least $8 billion of their customers' money. To put that in perspective, take the entire education budgets of San Francisco, Austin, Denver, Milwaukee, Washington, D.C., Memphis, and Detroit. Wipe it out for all those kids for an entire year. That's still less than the money that he stole. Next, the charges. There's 7 of them. Wire fraud, and then conspiracy to commit wire fraud, securities fraud, commodities fraud, money laundering. For now, there's just 2 things to remember. Wire fraud is really another name for committing fraud using electronic communications. Conspiracy, not necessarily that you actually committed the illegal act. It's just an agreement between 2 people to commit an illegal act. Basically, I don't actually have to rob a bank to be guilty of conspiracy to rob a bank if my kid and I both agree that we're going to rob a bank together. Headlines have been rife with other trials, like the campaign finance stuff, the class action lawsuits for his payments to celebrities like Tom Brady, Gisele, Larry David, Kevin O'Leary, the financial regulators' enforcement actions like the SEC and CFTC, and the state regulators' enforcement actions. Those trials will come, but they aren't this month's trial. Number 3, when? Buckle up because this one is a roller coaster. November 2nd, 2022. CoinDesk first broke the Alameda Research FTX commingling of funds story. This is the investigative journalism that unraveled the entire SBF empire. If you don't remember it, don't worry, it's no surprise. The midterm elections were just 6 days later. America had a lot of other things on its mind. November 6th, CZ, the CEO of competitor exchange Binance, comes into the picture. CoinDesk's report caught CZ's attention. CZ, who owned a lot of FTT, a crypto token used only on the FTX platform, announced via Twitter that he would sell all his FTT. This loss of confidence caused a bunch of people to panic sell their FTT. A few minutes later, Ellison, the CEO of Alameda Research, tweeted that Alameda would buy all of CZ's FTT, an attempt to stem the massive public liquidation of FTT. It didn't work. Just 2 days later, on November 8th, which was also election day over here, SBF announced, again via Twitter, that CZ would be buying FTX. In the crypto Twitter world, people were going bonkers with gossip, memes, and outright conspiracy theories. But just 24 hours later, on November 9th, Binance announced that they would not be buying FTX after having reviewed the financials. 2 days later, on November 11th, all entities in the SBF empire filed for bankruptcy protection. SBF steps down as CEO, and John Ray, the same guy who navigated the Enron bankruptcy, was now the new CEO of FTX. On November 17th, less than a week later, John Ray makes a bombshell filing in the bankruptcy court. Quote, "Never in my career have I seen such a complete failure of corporate controls and such a complete absence of trustworthy financial information as occurred here." Meanwhile, SBF, no longer a CEO, is on a media tour. This is in line with the hype that he had built for himself. All those things that had distracted people, except CoinDesk, his veganism, his hair, his gaming, his polyamorous penthouse, all those things that had distracted people when he was estimated to be worth $26 billion was what he went back to. On November 30th, the New York Times does a fluff interview from his $30 million Bahamas penthouse. December 1st, Good Morning America does another fluffy interview from his Bahamas penthouse. On December 13th, Chairwoman Maxine Waters had SBF testify to the House Financial Services Committee under oath. Just kidding. That didn't happen because the day before, the Department of Justice on December 12th arrested SBF. They got to him before he could testify in front of Congress. And you can imagine the chairwoman's disdain. On December 21st, the U.S. officially extradited SBF from the Bahamas to the United States. This was the same day that Carolyn Ellison and Gary Wang pled guilty. The following day, December 22nd, SBF was released on a $250 million bail, an astronomically high number. By comparison, Bernie Madoff's bail was $10 million. SBF went to house arrest at his parents' Stanford home, but on January 27th, about a month later, the government already had to come back to court to request that they modify the bail conditions. Encrypted messaging app to secret SBF had used to contact former employees. On February 14th, SBF further pissed off the judge by using an encrypted service to access the internet. On February 28th, Nishad Singh pleads guilty. On March 28th, the judge severely curtailed SBF's electronic device usage. No electronic devices other than a supervised laptop, restricted to about 40 internet sites. And his parents were required to have their own personal devices restricted, including monitoring software that would video capture the user of the device every 5 minutes to ensure that SBF was not using his parents' devices. Even a security guard had to be at the home to use a metal detector on everyone who entered. For a few months, things seemed calmer as filings went back and forth between the lawyers. But then on July 20th, the world learns that SBF leaked the private diary entries of his ex-girlfriend, Carolyn Ellison, and the New York Times decided to print it like it was news. That same day, the government goes back to court to request a gag order. They are pissed about this kind of witness intimidation. And we learn that not only did SBF leak the diary entries, his own lawyers didn't know about the documents, and the documents had not been included as part of the discovery process. Less than a week later, the judge imposes a gag order on SBF. On August 11th, the judge revokes SBF's $250 million bail. SBF had tampered with witnesses, put a fair trial in jeopardy, and nothing his lawyers proffered could assure the judge that he wouldn't do it again. SBF went to jail immediately. On September 7th, Ryan Salame pleads guilty. Those are our 4 executives. Just a block away from where former President Trump was seated for his own New York fraud trial, and all during the same week that the House ousted former Speaker McCarthy. Number 4, the where. This is the easy part. While FTX was in the Bahamas, they had U.S. customers and they had business dealings in the United States. Finally, number 5, how. How did SBF mastermind all of this in broad daylight? He created a crypto token called FTT. Promise, you don't need to understand crypto to understand this. In this instance, think of it like your Starbucks card. You load it up with funds and then you buy your coffee or snacks. Every time you buy coffee or snacks with your Starbucks card, you get Starbucks stars. You can redeem them for free coffee and snacks. So SBF created a token for the FTX exchange. The customers of FTX could purchase these FTT tokens and get discount on their trading fees. But the difference was that he also allowed people in the public to buy these FTT tokens, even if they didn't need the discount. And with some hype, he led people to believe that the value of the FTT token was a substitute for the value of FTX. By comparison, Starbucks doesn't make their stars available for purchase. Even if they did, the public wouldn't think of it as a substitute for the value of Starbucks, the company. So back to SBF's companies, FTX and Alameda Research. Recall, FTX is just a marketplace for customers to make crypto trades. FTX isn't supposed to trade crypto itself because that would create a conflict of interest. However, Alameda Research, SBF's other company, only made crypto trades. And it made big bets, presumably with big money. But instead of big money, it took FTX's customers' money to buy a lot of FTT. They artificially inflated the price of FTT. And when the entire market started to sell off its FTT, not only did FTT, the token, bottom out, but because FTX had given its customers' money to Alameda to buy FTT, FTX didn't have its customers' money anymore when they came to cash out. So that's the who, what, when, where, how. If you want more, hit like, comment, and follow for more.